Hey, I
I
know my
saw a
role.
pop-up that said it was being recorded, but maybe.
Yeah,
The
it's
bundle of
automatically
joy.
recorded, and then I stop it and then record it to the cloud because I don't know.
Yeah, Ashley's got a little guest here with us.
Yes. So welcome everybody. I know Crystal just posted a quick reminder in the group chat, so we'll just make sure everybody tunes in. But happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Jensen Huddle. And I know that Tom has a very special guest here today. And I'll just say a really quick thing about Bridget. So she's my upline, right? Of course. And before I started with Symmetry, I had started with another company for about 3 days. And knew I was going to get into insurance, just kind of made that decision for myself. I liked the lifestyle and the opportunity, but what was really important to me was, number one, the training structure and the culture. That was huge. But also, working with somebody that I respected and that I could see myself in some way. And 3 days into this other company, I was a hot mess. I was crying in the bathtub, just thinking, what did I get myself into? I got my license. How am I going to move forward with this? And I remembered I'd missed a voicemail from Bridget that I'd ignored, thinking I already had an opportunity. Don't need to follow up. And luckily, I didn't delete it all the way. And I called her back. We jumped on an interview later that day, and the rest is history, and I knew that if this company was something that Bridget, with all of her amazing grace and employees and all of that she has, if I could respect her so quickly and she was affiliated with this company, then I knew I was going to be in the right place. So I would not be here without her. And she taught me all of the basics and everything that got me started. And thank God she helped me bring on Tom too. So Tom, I'll pass it over to you.
Perfect. The quick part of the announcements, we've got the Wayland call at in an hour. I'm not even going time zone anymore. It's just in an hour. And then Wednesday at 1 Eastern time is the national call. And then we'll jump back into huddles on Thursday, where I think John and I are wrapping up the Fierce Conversations book, putting a bow on it. That's been an amazing journey, and that's really all I have. And Merry Christmas to all those that I haven't talked to, and all that. Happy holidays. But in reference to what I'm so excited to get into this. I can't see straight. But it's interesting. Paige, you brought up how Bridget brought you in, and it was your first day of recruiting, Paige, where I picked up the phone call that you called me, and then said, hey, Bridget's going to call you at 2:30 tomorrow. Is 2:13? Is 2:15 good or 2:30 better? Heck, I didn't know. I'm like, okay. And then Bridget and I got off the phone, and oh, good Lord. I'm glad I'm blessed for you two ladies in my life, because you've changed it completely, and I owe the world to you too. So I know Bridget's direct to her brother, Dave Lappin, and we give her grace for that. And she is an agency director in our hierarchy, and she is what I would call a superstar in the mindset in dialing. That is a gift that she has, and I'm excited to share a little bit of, be vulnerable in my journey, and kind of have Bridget help narrate that and help with that, because I think it's valuable for this team, especially when you're starting out to dial, and how that goes. And, the name of our call today is how a bucket, a mentor, and a mindset can help overcome anxiety in dialing, which, for those of you that don't know, I did have, this is no joke, I had a puke bucket right next to me when I started dialing, because I was severely anxious about it, and I didn't realize I was. And I love to clean my garage instead of dialing. I would make 5 dials and go clean my garage. And eventually we got to the point where I thought progress was making 50 dials, and that took me, what, Bridget, 6 hours? Something like that. But anyway, that's more of the introduction of it. And I just want to bring Bridget into the conversation, and we can kind of go through, how that all transpired and, and one thing I know her brother Dave talks about a lot is activity, effort, and skill set, and how this all relates to this. So, Bridget, I'll let you give a little bit of spiel, or it's not spiel, talk here. Gosh, you're gonna kill me. But no, jump in and then we can talk, kind of bounce back and forth on the journey from where I started and what happened just this last weekend and how that all kind of fit in and where it goes in the mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we begin, are you guys hearing a weird sound like someone
Yeah.
perhaps is riding a bike or something? Okay.
Yeah, I think that Charles, you might have to mute out a little bit there.
I'm just getting a weird feedback. But thank you guys for that nice introduction. It's always like, boy, if you want to feel really good about yourself, how about it go? And it has been just amazing, working with you, Paige and Tom, and it's absolutely crystal clear that there's a synergy there between the two of you and initially between Paige and I that you can't deny, because this opportunity, it attracts a certain kind of person, right? And everybody, when they hear about symmetry and the income and the flexibility, everybody wants that, right? But there's only certain people that are willing to do what it takes to get it, especially in the beginning. And we're talking about easily the first 90 days minimum, right? And so I think that's when Tom and I were talking about, what to focus on, what to talk about on the call. Tom will share kind of his initial journey, but there's always core principles that all of us can look at and say, yeah, that was me. That's me right now. Or here's how I got out of that. So what we'll share today is it's going to be applicable if you've been here a week, if you're in the study course, or if you've been here like a lot of us, over a year. Okay. So when Tom came in, had the conversation, I said, okay, this is someone that I think this could be a good match for. Good energy, real positive, not afraid of hard work, right? Came in, went through the training, and the script, the role play, and then started to dial. And not unlike a lot of us, ran into some adversity, right? With the no's, not handling objections, not knowing how to dance, that nuance of handling an objection. And as a result, he got a little beat up, right? As we all do in the beginning. So the tendency is always, oh my God, the sky is falling. What am I doing wrong? Maybe this isn't for me. Does any of that sound familiar to you, Tom?
Yep.
Yeah. And so what was so amazing though is Tom would tell me, I got, when he said I have a puke bucket, that just got me, because that basically encapsulates what a lot of us felt in the beginning. Even if we've been in sales, most of us didn't come from insurance, but symmetry is new. And so here's the good news, guys, for all of us. Symmetry has a system that is transferable and duplicatable. It accounts for all different backgrounds, all different skill sets, work experiences, all of it. Okay, so that it accounts for different personalities, style, all of that. And we know that it's duplicatable. How? Just watch the leaderboards. You just watch how many people are doing incredibly well just by following the system. So it has fundamentals built into it, and they call those fundamentals for a reason, right? You don't move off of those. So when Tom came in, he was what in his mind he thought he was implementing, right? Like you said, 50 dials, 6 hours later, right? Cleanest garage on the block. And so we had a conversation about, okay, a couple of things. I always find it useful to just go back to the basics, right? Of even when I started, because it can be very easy to start blaming the system, the leads, my this, my that. None of that, don't take this the wrong way, matters, because what I had to do in the beginning was remind myself, nobody's forcing me to do this. This is the path I chose and that created a lot of ownership, right? In what I was doing, is nobody's twisting my arm saying, you have to do this. I chose this, right? So talk a little bit, Tom, briefly on when you and I had those early conversations, right? About nothing happens without the phone. What in your mind was it that finally kicked it into that gear of, okay, this is what I'm doing right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. One thing I love that, I don't know if you mentioned this in this, but I don't think you did, but one thing that, Bridget, I'm so grateful that you kept reminding me, sometimes stronger than others, was the self-talk, the mindset, hey, I was using terms like, man, I'm just an idiot on the phone or something, is kind of degrading to myself. And Bridget, nope, stop. No. You're just not practiced yet. It's not you. It's just, you're not putting into practice. You're not putting in the effort. Even though I thought I was, it's not coming across as you're putting in the effort to get better. And, I know there was a challenge in one of our Ziller Miller huddles that if you didn't own your script, don't get on the phone. And I was having trouble with just dialing and getting people to show up. And, I'd go out and book 12 appointments and have one person show up. And it took me writing out the script 7 times, right? Saying each line 7 times out loud and then memorizing it. And I started from the back because Bridget and I talked about, well, you're not logging it down well enough. It doesn't sound like this. You're good in the beginning. It's the lockdown that you've got to work on. So I worked from the back part of the script forward so that I got more repetitions at the end than, working forward and just having one lockdown at the end and then going. That wouldn't have done any good for what we had talked about. Man, I spent 6-7 hours right before Thanksgiving last year and wrote all that out. I still have the papers, but the message was simply, keep practicing, own the script, and it will lessen that anxiety the more you know it, the more you own it. And, I always remember our role plays going back and forth because we role played a lot and still do. And I thank you for doing that, because it could have been one little word, it could have been one little tweak, it could have been one little voice inflection that changed it. And you'd be like, where's that in the script? Where'd that come from? And just get back to the basics. And if it was show factor, if it was just this, but the activity had to come. And that was me getting out of my own damn way. And, I know it was a tough conversation to hear, but, just Bridget just said, you've got to figure out, you can't be successful here without the phone. You've got to figure this out. And
if you're going to do that, Tom, to your point, is that, if you are going to do that, so role play is after you've set the expectations and, done the script, written it out, memorized it, that's all that activity that we mentor to, right? When someone's new, but there's nothing that takes the place of a role play, because sometimes we think we're following the script, and we're convinced, yep, you say, yes, I said that, and what they say, and when I said this. And so we know as mentors, right, that you're probably very close. You're just a couple of clicks off, but those could be the meaningful differences, like your tone, like sounding a little bit iffy, right? Because we always go back to we're the stimulus that creates the response, right? And so anybody that's on this call, whenever any of your mentors, they say, let's role play or send me an audio of you doing the script, I get it, right? Human nature is, oh God, wait a minute, I don't have my scripts in front of me, I can't role play. All right, go get them. I'll hold on. Because that, guys, is the core of what we do, on the producing side, right? So don't run away from the role play, I guess is what I'd say. Because if anybody I've been in a slump, I'm sure most people on the call, if you've been doing this, you get in a slump. So it's not a question of, yes, I did that, or, I said that. You need to just stop everything and ask a simple question, which is, if I'm not getting the results that I know other people are getting that are winning here, what part of our system am I not implementing? And what that does is it takes the emotion out of it. It takes the, I said that, I did that, this isn't working, to just facts. I find situations that can be emotional, it's best to stick to the facts, right? And so you need to ask yourself, if I'm not getting the results that I want for myself and my family, whatever that is for you, what part of the system am I not implementing? And guys, I don't know if you'll ever find an opportunity that has such a clear path for someone if they want it. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities that they sound great and you can make a great income, but it's sort of like hit or miss. Good luck. If you're this kind of person, you might do well in that industry, not here. So it's very important to look at that and appreciate the system for what it is on the producing and also on the recruiting side. But Tom, I think in the beginning for you, once you put in that work and did the role play, then it did become just a function of, okay, here's my show factor. So I know I need to book 20 appointments if my show factor is not where I want it to be, right? And that's where I saw you kind of really take ownership of what it was you were doing. And that, not saying, I'm sorry about that, or I really stink at this. Well, guys, those are little comments over time that can really get you, right? So that's where I think if you're not where you want to be, you look at what part of the system am I not implementing, and don't fool yourself about it, right? If someone tells me they've made 300 dials and I have no appointments, well, that's probably not the case, right? Maybe they thought they made 300 dials, but maybe it's not, because right in the beginning, you don't really have a baseline for how efficient you're going to be. Now, if you use the dialer, you will know that, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I would tell everybody on this call is, if you've never worked for yourself before or from home, keeping a schedule is going to be critical, right? And we talked about that too last week, Tom, in our one-on-one, is having the schedule of, okay, here's what I'm doing now, because no one's going to be leaning over your shoulder, tapping you on the shoulder, saying, Tom, do you make those phone calls, right? But what is it now, Tom, that drives you to do exactly what you need to do when you need to do it?
The schedule, and it's the means for promotions. It's the means for everything. It's how it all works. And the drive for me has always been to help as many families as possible. And finally, once again, self-developed enough to where I really accepted that. And it took a couple big questions from you and Paige both, and it's amazing how similar you two sound sometimes. From, are you open to holding yourself accountable, for this, for us to hold you accountable, and are you open to feedback as well? It took me a while to open both my hands and say, yeah, I'm ready. There was times I'd nod my head and say, sure, but it took a bit.
Yeah.
Probably longer than I wanted to, or that, frustrated you guys, but still coming through with that, it's, we still go through the role play. We still do that. I mean, heck, we role played on the way to conference, Paige, while we were driving. I mean, it was, because something wasn't clicking, something wasn't working. And, and And now it's changed from trying to become proficient enough to get it right to where now I really am eager and willing to get it right. And
Yep.
that was a big mindset change. And now I still get anxious on the phone. Don't think I don't. It's in my personality. But I've also got the bucket hasn't been up here in 9 months, but still, it's now I go through a little warm up. I go through affirmations. I go through visualization of booking an appointment and hitting my appointment goals. And I finish it up with a fantastic song to get my mind right. And then after the first dial, it's business as usual. And
Let me stop you real quick, buddy, on that, which is there's something in there that it's minor, but if you miss it, before you sit down to dial, take a second, right? Don't just hop on now I'm running late. And well, if you have a schedule, then it should be, what you're doing when, but take a second, right? Just have your coffee, have your water, have if you're printing out leads, have the leads, have your dialer queued up. And then just real quick, just kind of just relax and just remember, I recommend starting with older leads. When, let's say you have your fresh leads, but when you first get on to dial, Dave does the same thing. Call a few of your older leads, kind of get the kinks out, the cobwebs out, so that, you get kind of in that zone. So when you get to your fresh leads for that week, you're already rolling. You're already, getting ready to go. And so I think that's really important is, make sure you're in the proper mindset when you dial, whether it's reading a couple of quick, inspirational quotes, whatever that is for you, whether it's some deep breathing. Again, it all works if it works for you, right? And making sure, and you probably heard me say this many, many times, have the conversation with your family, or if you live with anybody else, a roommate, whatever, let them know, I'm going to be dialing for the next 3 hours. We can talk about whatever you want. We can have whatever it is. But in that time frame, this is what I'm doing. And just reminding yourself that I chose this for myself because I wanted something different. That to me is critical, because that shifts your mind from all this other stuff is not going right to, no, if you have eyes and ears, that the system works. There's just way too many people doing incredibly well here using the
Bridget,
system.
that family conversation, and I know we talked about this last week, but you and I, and the schedule, I was dialing. I had no appointments on Sunday, so I was dialing for Monday and today. And my son asked me, are you going to be dialing all afternoon? He wanted to watch football. And I said, well, yeah, I'm going to dial till I get to my appointment goal. And I set a goal of 5, right? Just because I wanted to spend some time with him. He was wanting to watch football. And he goes, no, Dad, you need to book 10. Don't come out till you book 10. And I'm like, okay, here we
All
go.
right.
I came back out at 10 and he goes, okay, let's go watch football. And out of that, I, wrote 2 policies yesterday. So just from that activity and having the mindset that my family's back in it with me, and it's so cool how that works. And yeah, you know what? It took me a minute to warm up to get it going, but
it is. I love what you guys are both talking about too. And sorry to jump in, but Bridget, you are spot on. You get you can, whatever you're thinking about is what's whatever you're thinking about is going to happen, right? Like if you are afraid, and you can will yourself into terrible results, right? If that's all you're thinking about, this is going to suck, I know I'm not going to do a good job, and that's exactly what's going to happen, right? But if you kind of get in that Zen space and that Zen moment, you just bring clarity and just stay optimistic. Stay hopeful, it doesn't matter, you're gonna get no's. Really, dissect the numbers. The numbers are the numbers. So on A1, it's a 25% book rate. If I have 100 leads, that means 75 people are going to tell me no. Like, just expect that. Don't get discouraged by 30 of them in a row telling you no. That's the cool thing about this business, is that activity eats skill set for lunch.
Boom.
Activity eats skill set for lunch. Like, you can, like, look at Ann Hammond as a perfect example. She was, every time she got on the phone, she's like, oh God, I'm not going to do good. I'm panicking. I need to make money. My bills are starting to get overwhelming, this, that, and the other. I'm like, Ann, yes, I get it. Like, I've been there, but here's the one thing that cured everything for me, is that no matter what I was thinking and or feeling, when I got to that 1,000 dial mark, like, stuff happened, right? And then that helped me get out of my rut, because I started making money and I started feeling better. And like, that activity really does help. But if you can take those kind of precaution steps, or err on the side of caution with your mindset, and don't talk yourself into a bad dial day. And I think it's important too, what you were talking about, Tom. One of the best things I've ever heard Miranda Martin talk about is that she rallied like her kids around her. So that was a cool story that you just shared with your son, 5 and 10, right? But like get your children, get your family, get your people on board with you, right? It's like, hey, look, I have a goal of setting 6 appointments. So when you come in and check on me, all I want you to do is just ask how many I'm at or how far away I am, and like, we'll celebrate, and then celebrate with them with something. You know, it could be watching football, right? It could be going to get ice cream. It could be doing something with the family, like some sort of celebration after you obtain that goal. So then they're kind of rallying for you. They're helping you. They're pushing you, right? Like, they're cheering you on. So yeah, great talk, you two. Sorry, guys.
Hey, I can tell you, John, the high fives when I told Sam that I helped 2 families yesterday, after each one was beyond worth it. So,
Yeah.
So cool.
and
Yep.
you know, yeah, and yeah, Paige, you can have Sam as your accountability partner anytime. But
I love that.
yeah, and it's so cool, because if, you know, last Tuesday, I know Bridget and Paige, you guys know this story. I had a really fierce conversation with my kids. Actually, they had it with me, because all I did is ask questions and listen. But, you know, it was a frustrating day. You know, I had things that were stacked against me with internet, not being able to go anywhere, all this stuff. And we talked on the way home from grandma's just about, you know, what does Christmas mean? What does this mean? And, you know, how can we help that? And when it came from time for them to ask how they could help, they just wanted me to be more present with them, which was crazy, because I'm home. And
Right.
it just told me that they were telling me very bluntly that something was out of balance, and I just needed to include them in it more. And that's where I thought Sunday was just so cool to come full circle on that. So
It really, really was, and so timely too, Tom, that, you know, it in that conversation can be had way more than once, right? Because you do need your whoever that is for you, you know, working and at least knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it, right? Because in the beginning, there's always a steep learning curve. So just to kind of, you know, summarize what we're talking about is a couple of things. Number one, don't quit. You know, it's like right on the other side of that, you know, right when you're like, I better find something else to do. Just take a second, and like Marlon Faulkner says, if you just don't quit, and you just keep reaching out, exactly how our system is set up, right? Reaching out, head down working, reaching out, head down working, and just looking at what, if you're not getting the results you want, what part of the system are you not implementing? It's not this big scary equation, guys. It's A, B, and it'll take you all the way to the path where you want to go. But you've got to do the upfront work, keep your mindset, you know, where it needs to be every day, most days. And, you know, you'll be amazed at what where you see yourself on the leaderboards. But you have to invest, you know, in yourself in the beginning, and just know that, okay, I'm going to prepare myself. I'm going to get on the phone. There's going to be people that say, no big deal. I'm just on to the next, because we know how the numbers roll out. So I hope that's kind of, you know, helpful to, you know, really anybody that's even starting in a slump, just kind of feeling like they're a little bit caught up, like kind of their foot's on first, and they're trying to get to that next level. It's always through activity, always through activity.
Yeah, it's so good. Paige, you got any feedback here, comments or?
I mean, everything worth being said has already been said, but I'll just say, what I'm hearing a lot of is just get out of your own way, be an excuse eliminator, because like Bridget said, if you have eyes and ears, then you know this works. And Tom and I speak a lot of, it's working for us, right? And Tom and I are two entirely different people coming from two entirely different backgrounds with two entirely different lives. Bridget included, right? John included. We're all coming from different places, and none of us worked in insurance before this. And so that, at a very small scale, that just goes to show that as long as you just trust the system, and I think it's got enough credibility at this point that it deserves your trust, just do the activity, do what your mentor is telling you to do, because it will work. It's not a matter of if, but when. Get out of your own way. Don't make excuses. Don't make extra hurdles for yourself that don't have to be there. Just do the work and the results will come.
Yep, exactly
perfect.
right. And I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said on that. That
No.
is absolutely the truth. Jimmy Spindlediner, the system has been in place too long, too successfully. So the system is not in question. The question is it worth it for you
Yeah.
to work the system?
Just took me
And-
a while to figure that out, Bridget.
And you did it. And look where you are now. But that came from accountability and reminding yourself, I chose this. This is the vehicle that I chose to change whatever situation I was in before, whether it was lacking time, lacking income, lacking freedom, lacking a positive work, and whatever that is for you. But just remind yourself that you're here of your own volition, your own choosing. Make it worth it. Make it worth it. You guys have a treasure trove in these two, in Paige and Tom and all the upcoming leaders within the Jensen agency. You're missing out if you're not tapping into them, you guys. They know what they're doing. They're doing it at a very high level. So if you're going to do this, do it. And you pick your head up in 3 to 6 months and you'll be like, all right, who was that person again 6 months ago? I don't recognize him, but I like who I'm seeing now. My family likes who I'm seeing now. My checkbook likes who I'm seeing now. It's all here. So take it if you will.
Awesome stuff, Bridget. Paige,
good.
thanks for letting us share this, and it's so cool. And Bridget, I can't tell you how much you mean to me, and Paige, same thing. John,
Right back
same
at
thing.
you, buddy. Right back at you. And we will see you guys in a little over a month in Denver.
Yes, you will. Awesome. Thank you so much, Bridget. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Always, guys. Have a great day.
Yes, you too. Bye,
See you
everyone.
all later.